They built the roads of Britain, then Britain forgot they ever existed. One had an engine ripped from a Spitfire. One knocked so violently that drivers swore you could hear it 3 villages away. One wore a chrome letter so big you could read it from the far end of a motorway. These were the kings of the A-roads, hand-built, badge-proud, and utterly unstoppable. Then they were scrapped, buried, and erased. Here are 10 British lorries the world chose to forget. Number 10. The Bedford TK. We start with a truck you've almost certainly seen without ever knowing its name. The Bedford TK arrived in 1960, built at Bedford's huge Dunstable factory, replacing the older S-Type, and it became, quite simply, the everyman lorry of Britain. Through the 1960s and 70s, if a job needed a medium truck, the TK did it. It went head-to-head with the Ford D-Series, and for years outsold almost everything. Over 20,000 were built in 1962 alone. Its secret was that flat-fronted forward-control cab and a chassis you could turn into anything. Coal merchants ran them, breweries ran them. It became fire engines, tippers, horse boxes, flatbeds, and furniture vans. The post office, later British Telecom, used a special version for planting telegraph poles, and it earned the brilliant nickname the Polecat. There was even a light tractor unit version using a Scammell coupling. Under the bonnet, you could have 4- or 6-cylinder petrol or diesel engines. Nothing exotic, just dependable. The Army took to it too. A 4-wheel drive military version, the Bedford MK, later MJ, became a staple of the British forces and served in the Falklands and the Gulf. Here's the remarkable part. The TK was already an old design by the 1970s, yet it was so cheap and so useful that Bedford kept building it right up to 1986. When the Dunstable plant was sold, a firm called AWD carried it on for the military until 1992. For over 30 years, this unassuming box on wheels quietly carried the nation, and hardly anyone gives it a second thought today. Number 9. The Commer 2-stroke, the Knocker. Next, a lorry remembered less for how it looked than for the astonishing noise it made, built by Commer and Luton under the Roots Group. This was the firm's forward control range, with the cab-forward QX styling. But nobody talks about the cab. They talk about the engine. The Roots TS3, better known across Britain as the Commer Knocker. The TS3 is one of the strangest diesels ever bolted into a truck. TS stood for 2-stroke, and this was a 2-stroke diesel with 3 cylinders, except each cylinder held 2 pistons, facing each other, crown to crown, for 6 pistons in total. There were no conventional cylinder heads and no valves. Instead, a clever arrangement of connecting rods and rockers drove a single crankshaft, with a supercharger forcing air in. It made around 105 horsepower and a hard, rasping, unforgettable bark that no other lorry on Earth could match. Fitted from 1954 into the late 1960s, it was genuinely clever engineering. The whole unit was so compact it sat under the cab floor, leaving room for 3 men to sit across the front. Servicing was surprisingly easy. You could pull pistons out through side hatches without lifting the engine. Roots even developed a bigger 4-cylinder version, the TS4, and ran a test engine for over 1 million miles. But it never reached the road. When Chrysler took over Roots, the exotic 2-stroke was doomed, and through the 1970s, the common name itself was swallowed by Dodge. Today, enthusiasts still crowd around a running TS3 at truck shows and turn the volume up just to hear that knock. Number 8. The Albion Reiver. Now we head north to Scotland for a lorry with a proud Scottish name that most people south of the border have never heard. The Albion Reiver was built at the Scotstoun Works in Glasgow, wearing Albion's beautiful sunrise badge and its famous motto, "Sure as the sunrise." The name itself is pure Scotland. A Reiver was a border cattle raider, and it sat perfectly alongside Albion's other rugged models, the Chieftain and the Clydesdale. The Reiver was a lightweight 6-wheeler, and the name arrived in 1957. It was one of the models that carried Albion forward after Leyland took the firm over, and many wore the shared Elad cab, the pressed steel cab designed jointly for Leyland, Albion and Dodge, a common sight across British roads in that era. Over the years, the Reiver was powered by Albion's own engines, then various Leyland units, and even an AEC diesel, with later heavy-duty Super Reiver versions gaining a double-drive rear axle for tipper and mixer work. Albion's had a reputation, built up over decades, for sheer toughness. Trucks exported across India, Africa, and Australia, and trusted to keep going. But under British Leyland, the Scottish mark was slowly reduced to a badge. Complete vehicle production at Scotstoun wound down in the early 1970s, and in 1980 British Leyland dropped the Albion name for good. There's a lovely footnote. Glasgow-born Mark Knopfler wrote a song called Border Reiver, a tribute to exactly this lorry, with the lines, "She's an Albion and sure as the sunrise," a fitting memorial to a hard-working Scottish workhorse. Number 7. The Guy Big J, back to England and to Wolverhampton, for a lorry whose name hides a Jaguar connection. The Guy Big J appeared in 1964, and the J stood for Jaguar, because a few years earlier, in 1961, the struggling Guy Motors had been rescued from receivership by Jaguar's Sir William Lyons. Under Jaguar, Guy got its confidence back, and the Big J, Big Jaguar, was the result. It was a thoroughly modern motorway truck for its day. Guy fitted a smart all-steel cab from Motor Panels of Coventry, a cab so good that other firms like Seddon bought the same basic design. And crucially, the Big J was engineered around a compact Cummins V6 diesel, built for the new world of fast, long-distance motorway haulage that was arriving with Britain's growing motorway network. It replaced Guy's earlier Warrior and Invincible models and sold well both at home and abroad, often shipped out as knockdown kits for assembly overseas. Guy Motors had a wonderful heritage. Its lorries had worn a cast, Native American chief's head on the radiator for over 40 years, under the slogan, "Feathers in our cap," born from a 1924 advert boasting of repeat orders, but heritage couldn't save the factory forever. Guy was swept into the British Leyland Empire, and in 1982 the historic Fallings Park works closed. When the workers heard the news, some cast a final batch of those Indian head mascots in the works foundry. One last salute. The Big J deserves to be remembered as one of the last great trucks from a proud Wolverhampton name. Number 6. The Foden S21 Mickey Mouse. Our next lorry looked like it had driven straight out of a science fiction film, and the press said as much. In 1958, the Sandbach firm of Foden launched a cab so radical it stopped people in their tracks, the S21. Its swooping, curved, ultra-modern shape was completely unlike the square, upright cabs of its rivals. The commercial vehicle press reached for space-age names, calling it the Spaceship and the Sputnik. But the nickname that truly stuck, the one enthusiasts still use, was Mickey Mouse. The looks were only half the story. The S21 was the first Foden cab made from glass-reinforced plastic, fiberglass, which resisted the rust that plagued steel cabs and helped keep weight down. It was genuinely pioneering, the first British-built GRP truck cab, and it led directly to another Foden landmark, the S24 of 1962, which was the first British mass-produced tilting cab, letting mechanics swing the whole cab forward to reach the engine. Under that famous cab, Foden offered the trusted Gardner diesels its customers loved, and the firm's own well-engineered driveline. Foden, remember, was the older of Sandbach's two great rivals, a company with roots going back to 1856 and a heritage in magnificent steam wagons, stubborn enough to build its own two-stroke diesel engines for years. Power 21 cab production ran until 1969. Foden itself was eventually bought by the American giant PACCAR in 1980, and the Foden name was quietly retired in 2006. But that curved, cartoonish, forward-thinking Mickey Mouse remains one of the most distinctive shapes British trucking ever produced. Number 5. The ERF B-Series. And here is Foden's great rival, from the very same small town. A lorry that made British-built a selling point right through the 1970s and 80s. ERF was born from a family feud. Edwin Richard Foden, ERF, had been pushed out of the Foden boardroom for backing diesel over steam, so he started his own rival firm just down the road in Sandbach. And in 1974, at the Earl's Court Show, ERF unveiled the truck that would define its modern era, the B-Series. The star of the show was the cab. ERF called it the SP cab, steel plastic with sheet-molded fiberglass panels bolted to a strong steel frame. This solved the two problems that plagued British trucks. It didn't rust like steel, and it was easy and cheap to repair after a knock. But it was also serious about safety. The SP was the first British cab to meet the tough new ECE 29 rollover standard, and it tilted hydraulically for servicing. You could have it as a day cab, or very modern for 1974, a proper sleeper. True to ERF's philosophy, nothing under the skin was made in-house. The firm assembled the best bought-in parts, Gardner, Cummins, or Rolls-Royce engines up to 280 horsepower, fuller gearboxes into a light, reliable, no-nonsense truck. Operators loved it, especially in the maximum weight tractor unit market. The B-Series was such a sound design that it spawned the C-Series and E-Series that followed. ERF soldiered on longer than almost any independent British maker, passing to Canada's Western Star and then Germany's MAN, which finally dropped the ERF name in 2007. The plastic fantastic B-Series remains, for many, the definitive British truck of its decade. Number 4. The Atkinson Border. Our next lorry you could identify from 100 yards away, thanks to one enormous, gleaming letter on its nose. The Atkinson Borderer was the pride of the Preston firm's range, a 4x2 tractor unit that became its runaway bestseller from around 1970. And everyone wore Atkinson's unmistakable badge, a huge chromed capital A on the radiator paired with a Knight of the Road emblem. It was one of the handsomest, most instantly recognizable fronts in all of British trucking, and drivers were fiercely proud of it. Like its sandbag cousin ERF, Atkinson was a classic assembler. It didn't make its own engines. Instead, it bolted the toughest, most respected components in the business into its own strong chassis. The famously durable and economical Gardner diesels, David Brown gearboxes, Kirkstall forge axles. The Borderer with a Gardner engine would plod up and down the country for years, sipping fuel and refusing to die. That reputation for reliability and honest service earned Atkinson a devoted following among owner-drivers. But even a much-loved mark couldn't stay independent. In 1970, the Oldham firm of Seddon took over the struggling Atkinson Company, creating Seddon Atkinson, and just 4 years later, in 1974, the combined business was bought by the American giant International Harvester. The great chromed A gradually disappeared from Britain's roads. Today, a restored Atkinson Borderer, that chrome letter polished to a mirror, a Gardner burbling away up front, is one of the most treasured sights on the vintage rally circuit, a genuine driver's favorite, and one most of the public have entirely forgotten. Number 3. The Scammell Crusader. Now for a lorry that frightened the establishment because it was simply too powerful for its own time. The Scammell Crusader was launched in 1969 by the Watford firm that specialized in the heaviest, most extreme haulage in Britain, where most maximum weight trucks of the day made between 150 and 220 horsepower. The Crusader arrived with a thundering 273. To many deeply conservative hauliers, that was almost alarming, the kind of power they didn't quite know what to do with. But it announced something new. Fast, high power, long-distance trucking had arrived. It was a proper modern motive unit, with a rugged steel cab and the muscle to haul heavy loads at real speed. The popular 4x2 version became a premium haulier's favorite, and there was a tougher military edition too, powered by a Rolls-Royce engine and pressed into service as an army recovery and plant tractor. Scammell had spent decades earning its reputation at the extreme end of the business. This was the firm that built the 100-tonner back in 1929, the little three-wheeled mechanical horse in 1934, and alongside the Crusader heavyweight giants like the Contractor and the Commander tank transporter. If a load was too big for anyone else, you called Scammell. But even the specialist couldn't outrun the wider collapse of the British truck industry. Scammell was folded into Leyland. Leyland was bought by DF of the Netherlands, and in July 1988, DF closed the historic Watford plant for good. The site is a housing estate now. The Crusader, the truck that dragged British haulage into the high power age, deserves far more than to be forgotten. Number 2. The Thornycroft Mighty Antar. At number 2, a genuine monster. A lorry powered, quite literally, by an engine descended from a Spitfire. The Thornycroft Mighty Antar, built in Basingstoke and introduced in 1951, was a colossal 6x4 heavy tractor unit. Its origins were exotic. It was designed in the late 1940s as an oil-field vehicle, ordered to drag enormous pipe sections across open desert for the Iraq Petroleum Company. Even the name fit the mission. Antar was taken from a legendary Arab poet warrior. It was built from the ground up for brutal off-road work where ordinary trucks simply couldn't go. And then there's the engine. The early Antar was powered by the Rolls-Royce Meteorite, a huge V8 that was, quite literally, a shortened version of the V12 Meteor tank engine. And the Meteor, in turn, was derived from the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin, the aero engine that powered the Spitfire and the Lancaster bomber through the Second World War. So this enormous lorry carried a direct descendant of one of the most famous engines ever built, thundering along on the same bloodline that won the Battle of Britain. That go-anywhere strength made the Antar the British Army's standard tank transporter for decades, hauling armor across terrain that would defeat anything else. It was, without exaggeration, one of the mightiest vehicles ever to wear a British badge. But Thornycroft, the truck maker, didn't survive the Great Consolidation. The firm was absorbed by AEC's parent company in 1961, and then by Leyland, which already had Scammell for heavy work. Vehicle production at Basingstoke ceased in 1969. The Mighty Antar rumbled on in service for years, a forgotten titan with an aero engine soul. Number 1. The AEC Mammoth Major, MKV. And at number 1, the definitive classic British lorry, the 8-legger, that for a generation simply was British haulage. AEC, the Associated Equipment Company of Southall, West London, was a true giant, a firm that built the capital's buses and some of the mightiest trucks in the land. And the crown of its range was the Mammoth Major, an 8-wheeled, 4-axle, heavy rigid capable of hauling loads of around 15 tons. It was the backbone of British trunk haulage, thundering up and down the A roads and later the new motorways, in fleet colors the whole country recognized. Our specific model is the finest of them, the Mammoth Major Menk 5, launched in 1958. It was an all-new design. There was no Mark IV for the lorries, AEC jumping straight from the MCO 3 to the Menk 5, and it wore a genuinely stylish cab, built mainly by Park Royal Vehicles. In fact, AEC often supplied just the chassis and front panels, letting customers choose their own cab to suit the job. Up front sat the famous blue triangle badge, and under it one of AEC's rugged, respected diesels. These trucks were exported right across the Commonwealth. For a time, big British AECs were genuinely the kings of the road as far away as Australia. But even the Titan fell. In 1962, IEC was taken over by its old rival Leyland. The distinctive cabs gave way to a common Leyland Group design. The AEC name vanished from lorries in 1977, and in 1979 British Leyland closed the historic Southall works for good. Think about that. The company that built London's buses, and this magnificent 8-wheeler, a genuine industrial giant, is a name most people today have never even heard. So, which of these did your family drive, work on, or grow up watching thunder past? Did I miss your favorite? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip back down Britain's A roads, hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.